thought I was finally getting my family back together. Instead, my own children humiliated me at the airport and flew to Hawaii without me, leaving me stranded with our expensive vacation package. But what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about love, worth, and second chances. At 52, after sacrificing everything for my kids and enduring a soul-crushing divorce, I planned what I hoped would be our healing trip. I'd spent months organizing every detail, paid for everything up front, and genuinely believed this was our chance to reconnect as a family. My daughter Emma, 28, and my son Tyler, 25, had been distant since the divorce 2 years ago. They blamed me for breaking up the family, even though their father had been cheating for years. Standing at the departure gate with our boarding passes in hand, I felt hopeful for the first time in months. We were finally going to talk, laugh, and maybe even forgive each other. I had visions of sunset dinners, beach walks, and honest conversations about our future as a family. But life had other plans. What my children did next was so cruel, so calculated, that it literally knocked me unconscious. Yet somehow, in my darkest moment of humiliation, I found something I never expected to find again. Someone who saw me not as a burden, not as an embarrassment, but as a woman worthy of love and respect. This is the story of how my children's betrayal led to the most unexpected romance of my life. Let me paint you the picture of who I was before everything changed. My name is Sarah, and for 25 years, I was the perfect suburban mom. I married my college sweetheart, David, when I was 24, had Emma 2 years later, and Tyler followed 3 years after that. I was the mom who never missed a soccer game, who made elaborate birthday parties, who helped with every school project until 2 a.m. I gave up my marketing career when Emma was born because David insisted one of us needed to be home full-time. The kids need stability, he'd say, and I believed him. I believed in our family, in our future, in the life we were building together. I volunteered at school, organized neighborhood barbecues, and made sure our house was always the one where all the kids wanted to hang out. But here's what I didn't see coming. The more I gave of myself, the more invisible I became. David started working later, traveling more, and when he was home, he was distant. The kids grew up seeing me as the rule enforcer, while Dad was the fun parent who swooped in with gifts and weekend adventures. I was the one who did homework battles, enforced bedtimes, and dealt with teenage drama. When I discovered David's affair 2 years ago, my world imploded. It wasn't just one affair. It was a pattern that had been going on for years. Hotel receipts, secret credit cards, a whole double life I'd been too trusting to see. The divorce was brutal. David painted me as the controlling, bitter wife who let herself go and didn't understand him anymore. What hurt most was watching my children choose sides. Emma, who I'd raised to be strong and independent, suddenly saw me as the villain who destroyed her perfect family. Tyler, my sensitive boy, who used to tell me everything, became cold and distant. They moved in with David and his 35-year-old girlfriend, visiting me only when they needed money or wanted me to do their laundry. The loneliness was suffocating. I'd wake up in my empty house and wonder what I'd done wrong. Had I been too demanding, too emotional, not fun enough? I started therapy, joined a book club, even tried online dating, but nothing filled the void where my family used to be. 6 months ago, I decided to make one last attempt to rebuild our relationship. I suggested a family vacation, somewhere neutral, beautiful, where we could talk without the baggage of our hometown. I researched resorts, compared prices, and finally settled on a gorgeous beachfront property in Cancun. I paid for everything up front: flights, hotel, meals, activities. It cost me nearly $8,000, which was a significant chunk of my divorce settlement, but I thought it would be worth it if I could get my children back. The planning process gave me hope. Emma seemed excited about the spa treatments I'd booked for us. Tyler mentioned wanting to try deep-sea fishing. For weeks we texted about the trip, and I felt like maybe, just maybe, we were finding our way back to each other. I bought new clothes, got my hair done, even splurged on a manicure. I wanted to show them that I was still their mom, but also that I was becoming someone new, someone who deserved their respect and love. I packed carefully, including little gifts for each of them and planning surprises I thought would make them smile. The night before we left, I barely slept. I was nervous but excited like a teenager before a first date. I kept imagining us laughing together on the beach, having deep conversations over dinner, maybe even crying together as we worked through our pain. I thought this trip would be the turning point, the moment we became a family again. I had no idea that my children had been planning something entirely different. I had no idea that the trip I'd sacrificed so much for would become the most humiliating experience of my life, and paradoxically, the beginning of the most beautiful chapter I never saw coming. The first red flag should have been Emma's text the night before we left. "Mom, just so you know, we might want to do our own thing sometimes during the trip. We're adults now." I brushed it off, thinking she just wanted some independence. After all, they were 28 and 25. Of course they'd want some space. But tudo começou a mudar quando I picked them up for our 6 a.m. flight. Both kids were unusually quiet, glued to their phones, exchanging glances I couldn't quite read. When I tried to start conversations about our itinerary, they gave me one-word answers. Emma kept checking her phone and smirking at something, while Tyler avoided eye contact entirely. "Are you guys excited?" I asked as we drove to the airport, trying to inject enthusiasm into my voice. "Sure, Mom," Emma replied flatly, not looking up from her screen. At the airport check-in, things got stranger. The kids insisted on handling their own boarding passes, which seemed odd since I'd booked everything together. When I tried to see their tickets, Emma quickly tucked hers away. "It's fine, Mom. Everything's handled." I should have trusted my instincts, but I was so desperate for this trip to work that I ignored every warning sign. I wanted to believe that their distance was just pre-travel nerves, that once we got to the resort, everything would fall into place. While we waited at our gate, I noticed Emma and Tyler texting furiously. They kept whispering to each other and looking at me with expressions I couldn't decipher. When I asked what was so interesting, Emma said, "Just coordinating with friends back home." "Friends?" I asked. "I thought this was going to be family time." Tyler finally looked at me, and there was something cold in his eyes that I'd never seen before. "Mom, we need to talk to you about something." My heart started racing. The way he said it, the way Emma was avoiding my gaze, the secretive phone calls. Suddenly everything clicked into a horrible picture. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma took a deep breath and looked at Tyler, as if they'd rehearsed this moment. "Mom, we've been talking, and we think you need to learn to be independent. You've been too clingy since the divorce, and it's honestly embarrassing." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Embarrassing? You're always trying to insert yourself into our lives," Tyler continued, his voice gaining confidence. "The constant texting, the surprise visits, planning trips like this without really asking if we wanted to come. It's suffocating." I felt the ground shifting beneath me. "But you said you wanted to come. We've been planning this for months." Emma's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it with barely concealed excitement. "Here's the thing, Mom. We did want a vacation, just not with you." "What does that mean?" Tyler pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was a group chat with several of their friends, all talking about flights to Hawaii. The timestamp showed they'd been planning this for weeks. "We're going to Hawaii instead," Emma said, not even trying to sound sorry. "Tyler's friend got us a great deal on a house rental, and honestly, it sounds way more fun than this." She gestured vaguely at our gate. I stared at them, unable to process what I was hearing. You're leaving me here? What about our trip? I paid for everything. The resort, the activities, everything is non-refundable." "That's your choice," Emma shrugged. "You can still go. Maybe it'll be good for you to learn how to vacation alone." The cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. This wasn't just about independence or space. This was calculated humiliation. They'd let me plan everything, pay for everything, get excited about our family time, all while secretly planning to abandon me. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked, my voice shaking. A few weeks, Tyler admitted, at least having the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. We were going to tell you sooner, but we knew you'd try to guilt us into staying. Guilt you? I could barely speak. I'm your mother. I thought we were trying to rebuild our relationship. Emma stood up as their boarding call for the Hawaii flight was announced. Mom, you need to understand. We're not kids anymore. We don't owe you our time just because you're lonely. And with that, they walked away, leaving me sitting alone at the gate with 3 boarding passes to Cancun and a shattered heart. I sat there for what felt like hours, watching other families board their flights together, laughing and excited for their vacations. The contrast was devastating. Here I was, a 52-year-old woman abandoned by her own children in an airport, holding boarding passes for a family trip that would never happen. The gate agent called for final boarding, and I realized I had a choice. Go home and wallow in my humiliation, or get on that plane and face the vacation alone. Something inside me, maybe pride, maybe desperation, made me stand up and walk toward the gate. Traveling alone today? The flight attendant asked cheerfully as she scanned my boarding pass. Yes, I managed to say, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. Just me. The flight to Cancun was torture. I'd booked 3 seats together, and now I sat alone in the middle while strangers occupied the seats meant for my children. Every time the flight attendants offered drinks or snacks, I was reminded that I'd planned to share this experience with Emma and Tyler. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a text, an apology, anything that would indicate they felt even a shred of remorse. Nothing. When I arrived at the resort, the humiliation deepened. The cheerful staff greeted me with, "Welcome! Where's the rest of your party?" I had to explain over and over that it would just be me. The pitying looks from other guests were unbearable. Families everywhere, couples holding hands, and me, alone with my oversized family suite and my shattered dignity. I tried to make the best of it. I went to the welcome dinner alone, sat at a table for 3, and watched other families enjoying their time together. I attempted to join a group activity, but being the only solo traveler among couples and families made me feel even more isolated. By the second day, the weight of what had happened was crushing me. I kept replaying Emma's words. It's honestly embarrassing. Was I really that pathetic? Had I become the clingy, desperate mother they painted me as? I started questioning everything. Every text I'd sent, every attempt to connect, every gesture of love I'd offered since the divorce. The breaking point came on the 3rd morning. I was sitting by the pool, trying to read a book while families splashed and played around me, when I overheard a conversation at the next table. Can you imagine being abandoned by your own kids like that? One woman whispered to her friend, glancing in my direction. I heard her telling the bartender last night. So sad. The humiliation was complete. I wasn't just alone. I was the object of pity, the cautionary tale other mothers would tell their friends. I felt my chest tighten, my breathing become shallow. The pool area started spinning and I realized I was having a panic attack. I stumbled toward the resort lobby, gasping for air, my vision blurring. The last thing I remember clearly was the concerned voice of the concierge asking if I was okay, and then everything went black. I woke up in a small medical room off the lobby, with someone gently checking my pulse. As my vision cleared, I found myself looking into the most compassionate brown eyes I'd ever seen. They belonged to a man who appeared to be in his late 20s, with dark hair and a kind smile that immediately put me at ease. "Hey there," he said softly. "You're okay. You had a panic attack, but you're safe now. I'm Jake, and I'm a nurse. I was just finishing my vacation here when I saw you collapse." His voice was warm and professional, but there was something else there. Genuine concern, not the pity I'd been receiving from everyone else. He wasn't looking at me like I was a pathetic abandoned woman. He was looking at me like I was a person who needed help. "I'm sorry," I whispered, embarrassed. This doesn't usually happen to me." "Don't apologize," Jake said firmly. "Panic attacks are nothing to be ashamed of. Your body was responding to stress. Can you tell me what's been going on?" And for the first time since my children had abandoned me, someone was asking not out of curiosity or pity, but out of genuine care. Something about his presence made me feel safe enough to start talking. As I told Jake about what my children had done, I watched his expression change from professional concern to genuine shock and anger on my behalf. He didn't interrupt, didn't judge, just listened with an intensity that made me feel heard for the first time in years. "Wait," he said when I finished. "Let me get this straight. You planned and paid for a family vacation, and they abandoned you at the airport to go to Hawaii instead, and they called you embarrassing." I nodded, feeling the familiar sting of tears. Jake shook his head in disbelief. "That's not embarrassing, that's cruel. And it says everything about them and nothing about you." Something in his voice, the way he said it with such conviction, made me look at him more carefully. He wasn't just being polite. He was genuinely outraged on my behalf. "You know what?" Jake said, standing up. "I was supposed to fly home tomorrow, but I think I'm going to extend my vacation. Someone needs to show you how you deserve to be treated." "Oh no," I protested quickly. "I couldn't ask you to do that. You don't even know me." "You're not asking," he smiled. "I'm offering. And I may not know your whole story, but I know enough. You seem like an incredible woman who's been treated terribly by people who should love you most. The next few days were like living in a dream." Jake showed me the resort through completely different eyes. We had breakfast together, explored the local markets, went snorkeling, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. He was intelligent, funny, and treated me with a respect and attention I'd forgotten I deserved. On our 4th day together, as we watched the sunset from the beach, Jake took my hand. "Sarah," he said, "I need you to know something. What your children did to you, that's not normal. That's not how people who love you should treat you. But maybe they're right," I said quietly. "Maybe I have been too clingy, too needy since the divorce." Jake turned to face me fully. "Listen to me. Wanting a relationship with your children isn't clingy. Planning a family vacation isn't needy. You're a mother who loves her kids and wanted to rebuild your relationship with them. There's nothing wrong with that." That night, as we walked back to the resort, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. My heart leaped, thinking maybe she'd finally realized what they'd done. But as I read the message, my blood ran cold. "Mom, we saw your Instagram post with that guy. Are you seriously dating someone half your age while you're supposed to be on our family trip? This is exactly the kind of embarrassing behavior we were talking about. Dad was right about you." I showed Jake the message, my hands shaking with a mixture of hurt and rage. Jake read it twice, his jaw tightening. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to my phone. Before I could answer, he was typing a response. But instead of sending it from my phone, he pulled out his own and took a selfie of us together on the beach, both of us smiling genuinely. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Something I should have done days ago," he said, posting the photo to his own Instagram with a caption that made my heart stop. "Having an amazing vacation with the most incredible woman I've ever met. Sarah is beautiful, intelligent, kind, and deserves so much better than the people who've been treating her like she's not enough. Sometimes the best things happen when you least expect them. Vacation romance. Make second chances. She deserves the world." Within minutes, his post had dozens of likes and comments from his friends and colleagues, all saying how happy he looked and asking about his gorgeous girlfriend. "Jake," I whispered, "you don't understand. I'm 52. You're what, 28? People will think—" "I'm 29, he corrected with a grin. "And I don't care what people think. Do you know what I see when I look at you? I see a woman who's been so busy taking care of everyone else that she forgot to take care of herself. I see someone who's been told she's too much when she's actually not enough for herself." He pulled me closer. "Your children don't deserve you, Sarah. But maybe if you'll let me, I can show you what it feels like to be with someone who does." The aftermath of Jake's Instagram post was swift and brutal. Within hours, my phone was exploding with calls and texts from Emma and Tyler. But this time, their tone was completely different. Emma's first call came at 6 a.m. the next morning. "Mom, what the hell is going on? Who is this guy? Are you having some kind of midlife crisis?" For the first time in years, I didn't rush to answer her call. Jake and I were having breakfast on our private balcony, and I was actually enjoying myself. When I finally called her back 2 hours later, I could hear the panic in her voice. Mom, finally, we need to talk. This is insane. You can't be dating some random guy you met on vacation. What do you even know about him? I know he treats me with respect, I said calmly. I know he listens when I talk. I know he doesn't abandon me when it's convenient for him. There was a long pause. Mom, we didn't abandon you. We just needed space. Emma, you left me alone at an airport after letting me plan and pay for a family vacation. You called me embarrassing. How is that not abandonment? We didn't think you'd actually go alone. We thought you'd just go home and maybe learn to be more independent. The casual cruelty in her voice was staggering. So this was a lesson? You were teaching me independence by humiliating me? Tyler grabbed the phone. Mom, listen. We're worried about you. This guy is obviously using you. He's probably after your money or something. You're being naive. I looked over at Jake, who was reading a book and occasionally glancing up to smile at me. The irony wasn't lost on me. My children, who had taken thousands of dollars from me for this trip and then abandoned me, were accusing someone else of using me. Tyler, I said quietly. Jake extended his vacation to spend time with me. He's paid for every meal, every activity we've done together. He's asked for nothing except my company. But Mom, he's so young. What could you possibly have in common? That question broke something open in me. You know what we have in common? We both believe that people deserve to be treated with kindness. We both think that love isn't about age or convenience. We both understand that respect is the foundation of any relationship. The real plot twist came 3 days later. Jake and I were having dinner when my phone rang. It was David, my ex-husband. Sarah, we need to talk. The kids told me about your situation. What situation, David? This boy you're dating. It's inappropriate, and it's affecting the children. I almost laughed. Affecting them how? They're in Hawaii having the time of their lives on the vacation they stole from me. They're concerned about you. They think you're having a breakdown. David, I said, looking across the table at Jake, who was giving me an encouraging smile. I'm having the opposite of a breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. But the real revelation came when Jake answered a call during our dinner. I couldn't help but overhear parts of the conversation. Yes, Dr. Martinez, I understand. No, I can extend my leave another week. The foundation will cover it. Yes, I'll be back for the board meeting next month. When he hung up, I stared at him. Board meeting? Jake looked embarrassed. I should have told you sooner. I'm not just a nurse, Sarah. I mean, I am a nurse, but I also run a medical foundation. My family started it after my grandmother died from a treatable condition because she couldn't afford proper care. Your family? My father is Dr. James Martinez. He owns a chain of medical centers across the Southwest. The foundation provides free health care to underserved communities. I work as a traveling nurse because I want to understand health care from the ground up, not just from a boardroom. I sat back, stunned. So you're rich? Yes, but that's not why I'm here with you, Sarah. I'm here because you're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen just Jake, not Jake Martinez, heir to a medical empire. The final confrontation came when Emma and Tyler cut their Hawaii trip short and flew to Cancun to rescue me. They showed up at the resort unannounced, demanding to speak with me immediately. I met them in the lobby with Jake by my side. The moment Emma saw him in person, her attitude shifted. He was undeniably handsome, well-dressed, and carried himself with quiet confidence. Mom, Emma said, her voice less certain than it had been on the phone. We need to talk. Privately. Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of Jake, I replied. Tyler stepped forward, trying to assert authority. Look, man, I don't know what your game is, but our mother is vulnerable right now. She's been through a difficult divorce, and she's not thinking clearly. Jake's response was calm but firm. Your mother is one of the strongest, most clear-thinking women I've ever met. The only thing that's been unclear is why she spent so much energy on people who don't appreciate her. Emma's eyes narrowed. And you do? You've known her for a week. I've known her long enough to see that she deserves better than children who abandon her and then show up to criticize her choices. The conversation that followed was the most honest my children and I had ever had. With Jake's quiet support, I finally found the courage to say everything I'd been holding back for years. Emma, Tyler, I began. my voice steady for the first time in months. I need you to understand something. I am not the same woman you left at that airport. That woman was desperate for your approval, willing to accept crumbs of affection, and convinced that being a good mother meant sacrificing my own happiness for yours. Emma shifted uncomfortably. Mom, we never asked you to sacrifice. Yes, you did, I interrupted. Every time you called me clingy for wanting to spend time with you. Every time you made me feel guilty for texting too much or caring too much. Every time you treated my love like it was a burden instead of a gift. Tyler looked genuinely confused. But we do love you, Mom. Do you? I asked. Because love isn't just a feeling, Tyler, it's a choice. It's showing up. It's treating someone with respect even when it's inconvenient. It's not abandoning them when they need you most. Jake squeezed my hand gently, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this conversation. Here's what's going to change, I continued. I'm not going to chase you anymore. I'm not going to beg for your time or your attention. I'm not going to plan elaborate gestures to win your love. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to show up as adults who treat me with the same respect you'd give any other person you claim to love. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Mom, we didn't realize. We didn't mean to hurt you like this. But you did hurt me, I said softly. And the fact that you didn't realize it tells me how little you've been thinking about my feelings at all. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. My children, perhaps for the first time, began to see me as a person rather than just their mother. They watched Jake and me together, saw how he listened to my opinions, laughed at my jokes, and treated my thoughts and feelings as valuable. Emma pulled me aside on their last day. Mom, I owe you an apology, a real one. What we did was cruel, and I've been making excuses for it because I was angry about the divorce and I took it out on you. Why were you so angry with me? I asked. Because Dad made it seem like everything was your fault. He said you'd become bitter and demanding, that you'd changed. But watching you this week, you're not bitter at all. You're actually happier than I've seen you in years. Tyler's apology came harder, but it was equally meaningful. Mom, I think I was angry because I wanted you to be the same person you always were. Always available, always putting us first. I didn't want to accept that you might have your own life, your own needs. The transformation in our relationship didn't happen overnight, but it began that week in Cancun. My children started to see me as Sarah, not just as Mom. They began to understand that I had dreams, desires, and a right to happiness that didn't revolve around them. As for Jake and me, what started as a vacation romance has become something deeper. We've been together for 8 months now, and while the age difference still raises eyebrows sometimes, we've learned not to care. He's shown me that love isn't about checking boxes or meeting expectations. It's about finding someone who sees your worth and chooses you every day. My life has changed in ways I never expected. I've started traveling more, pursuing hobbies I'd abandoned, and most importantly, I've learned to value myself. Jake and I are talking about moving in together, and while my children are still adjusting to our relationship, they're trying to be supportive. The most profound change is in how I see myself. I'm no longer the desperate, clingy mother my children painted me as. I'm a woman who loves deeply, who deserves to be loved in return, and who refuses to accept less than she's worth. To anyone reading this who recognizes themselves in my story, you are not too much. You are not embarrassing for wanting love and connection. You are not pathetic for trying to maintain relationships with people who don't appreciate you. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who see us least clearly. And sometimes, when those people fail us, the universe sends us exactly what we need in the most unexpected package. I thought my children abandoning me was the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning of the best chapter of my life. Have you ever had a moment when someone's cruelty led to an unexpected blessing? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Sometimes our greatest heartbreaks become our greatest opportunities for growth and happiness. Remember, you deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. You deserve to be celebrated, not endured. And you're never too old for a second chance at happiness.